Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I hope you'll enjoy this legal content or whatever this is, and today will be the day I earn your subscription. For today's content, we'll be talking about two things. In the back half of this, we will be talking with Stephanie, and we'll be talking about the transgender youth, and we'll be talking about guidelines relating to transgender surgery and transgender therapies and transgender stuff. And we may review a YouTube video discussing some of this stuff in some depth because that might be fun. But first, I'm just going to rant at the camera for a while. And I'm just going to talk about the issues with Jussie Smollett. Juicy himself. Yes, justice for Juicy has again been thwarted. Again, a victim of a horrible hate crime has the perpetrators of which have gotten off due to the rampant white privilege and the misogyny, which is somehow relevant, and the racism and all those things. The perpetrators of the Jussie attack have thwarted justice and have been set free. And I just at a time like this can't help thinking about all those tweets, in the very early days of the whole thing, demanding the maximum penalties for the attackers of Jussie and demanding that this be a top priority. And I wonder what all those people must be thinking about right now, learning that the attacker of Jussie has gotten out well ahead of time, pending his appeal. So yeah, that happened. So the Court of Appeals, in a one-page decision, ordered his release on the basis, it seems, that the appeal would take so long that his time would be exhausted in prison or jail, as it were, because he's on a day for day good credit. So he was sentenced to 150 days, but he's on day for day good credit, which means that he only has to serve 75 days. And an appeal decision in 75 days, good luck. Good luck trying to get that decision done. Courts of appeal can ball when they're really, really motivated. But this is not one of those occasions where they're like super duper motivated. This is not one of those occasions where we're going to go from filing to decision by the U.S. Supreme Court in like 3 weeks flat and set a new record. This is not one of those cases. So they set him free on the basis that he'd exhaust the time. Now, I'd like to point out that this is just generally not a thing, because lots of people are convicted all the time of all kinds of offenses. And sometimes their sentences are relatively short, for first offenses, for misdemeanors, or even for subsequent offenses for misdemeanors, for that matter. You can get, especially when you get day for day credit and stuff like that, you can get a relatively short sentence. So there might be all kinds of people who might want to not serve their time in jail while their appeal is going through. But this is not routine. This is not a routine thing. Normally, you just kind of have to suck it up. And if at the end of the day, the Court of Appeals determines that your sentence was wrong, they're like, oh, well, that's sad. Sorry about that. We reversed the conviction. And, the blot is off your record, but I hope you enjoyed your stay at Casa de Prison. Is normally how this goes. But Jussie, who in no way is getting special privileges or in no way getting special benefits at all, is getting this treatment for his issue, because his issue would be ended before the Court of Appeals could act, which again is not normally a basis by which this happens. So the whole thing is weird. The issue on appeal is going to be double jeopardy, as I'm sure people can appreciate. I was discussing this with Nate the lawyer. The issue is I don't even know what we'll call it. What do we call it? The initial resolution? I mean, we call it a plea deal, except it wasn't a plea deal. It was some sort of diversion. So for those of you who may not remember, initially Jussie was charged with 15 counts, and he reached an agreement, ? with one of Kim Foxx's deputies. Kim Foxx at the time was the elected prosecutor for Cook County. She was the prosecutor. Normally, this is how it works in U.S. system. except, of course, in the federal system, which is slightly different. But for state systems, this is normally how it works. Like every jurisdiction, usually county, has an elected prosecutor. There's the one guy, the prosecutor, right? And all the power of the prosecutor is then falls onto all of his subordinates, right? So none of his subordinates have inherent power. They all gain power from him or her, the head of the office, right? They're all agents of him or her. And so they only have as much power as the principal has, which is generally true of agency law, right? So Kim Foxx was the prosecutor. And she recused herself, except not really. She said she recused herself and told people she recused herself, except she didn't. She didn't go through the normal processes of recusing herself. And she appointed her deputy in her stead, which is not a thing you do. In a recusal, the entire office is recused because, as I mentioned, all power flows from the prosecutor. So if the prosecutor is recused, by necessity, all the deputies are recused. So the way that this would work in Illinois, and your state may vary on terms of how they do this, but the way that this works in Illinois is you go to a judge and say, hey, judge, I need to recuse myself. So could you appoint somebody? And they appoint somebody. They appoint a private person. They appoint a private attorney, right? They appoint a private attorney who will be the prosecutor for that particular case. So they're a special prosecutor, right? They're the prosecutor for that particular case. And now they have suddenly all the authority of the office, but that's how you normally do it. You don't get to appoint your own, because if you're conflicted out, your appointment would necessarily be conflicted because you're conflicted, remember? So how can you make the appointment? So anyways, Kim Foxx tried to do this half recusal thing that doesn't really work, appointed her deputy to an office that doesn't exist, this acting attorney, whatever thing. And then they reached the settlement whereby Jussie would have to agree to 2 days of community service, which I guarantee you were already on his calendar, and to forfeit his $10,000 bond. And that was all the penalty he would receive. And then someone petitioned for a new prosecutor. And so a new prosecutor was appointed. And then we had the whole trial in which we just had the conviction just now. So the major question on appeal is whether or not what Kim Foxx and her deputy did creates a double jeopardy issue, whether or not their initial settlement of the 2 days of community service, which were already on the calendar, I assure you, and give us $10,000 in bribes, whether or not that was sufficient to get past double jeopardy. This issue has been reviewed in part by the judge who created the special prosecutor in the first place, because as I mentioned, in Illinois, special prosecutors are created by court action. Different states do it differently. So in this particular state, they're created by a court action. And so the court created the special prosecutor. And so they had to analyze the double jeopardy issues. And their conclusion was that the deal, such as it was void because Kim Foxx had no power because she was recused. So if she has no power, her deputy has no power. So basically, Jussie made a deal with nobody. So it's not whether a deal was made, but whether or not there was power to make the deal. And as Nate, the lawyer, has pointed out, this would be maybe equivalent, although how equivalent it is debatable, as to whether or not just a random guy just walks into court one day and says, I'm the prosecutor. I'm here to settle all the deals. Would that be binding? And obviously the answer to that question is no. So I guess the question is, how close are we to that fact scenario in this situation? And to my mind, I think that this is a plausible and to some degree promising appeal. And I use the word promising somewhat tentatively because promising appeals doesn't necessarily mean it will be granted. Like the appellate rate normally is really, really low. But this is a plausible ground. There does seem to be some case law precedent already on point that says that this is not going to work. So there seems to be some problems there. So I don't know what's going to happen, but there's a lot of different possibilities here. It's very, very frustrating he's not in jail. Nate, the lawyer, has suggested that he might be able to get time credit while he's out, which is annoying, which would mean that if his conviction is upheld, then the only real penalty is he's a convicted felon, which is not nothing. It's a bit of a pain in the ass, especially if he wants to travel overseas for being an actor or something. So, and obviously it creates other problems in terms of future employment opportunities. So being a convicted felon isn't nothing. The immigration issues can be notable. But it may be that, the amount of time he served, maybe all the time he served. He'll still have to pay his $140,000 in fines, and he still has to pay his attorneys, which I'm sure were very expensive. If you're trying to calculate his attorney's fees, good luck. I'm sure we're plus $500,000 without breaking a sweat, and we might be into 7 figures. So that's kind of what's going on in the Jussie case. The Court of Appeals has set him free on the basis that by the time the Court of Appeals could hear the case, his sentence would be served, and so it's in the interest of justice for him to be let free. This is not something they normally do, but they did it for him because he's special or something, and because he's at unique risk in jail, which doesn't really make sense. But whatever. So, yeah, we'll have an appeal, and we'll see how it goes. And if the Court of Appeals renders a decision, we'll cover it and see what the law says. And then, of course, it's an appeal to the Illinois Supreme Court from there. And presumably that's the end of the road. This could turn on similar issues that turned the Cosby case. The difference between the Cosby case and this case, by the way, is the Cosby case turned on whether or not a deal had been made, not whether there was authority to make a deal. So in some ways, this is kind of the reverse of Cosby. In Cosby, everyone conceded there was authority to make a deal. The question was, did a deal occur? This is kind of the exact opposite. Here, everyone kind of agrees a deal was made. The question is, did they have authority to make a deal? So it's almost like the exact mirror of Cosby in some ways. So who can say how it will go? But we'll press on as it goes. But this little introductory rant has been a distraction from the best part of the stream, which is where I get to talk to the lovely, the incredible, the wonderful, lovely, beautiful Stephanie, who is here to talk to us about transgender youth and the 12-year-olds who are having their tits chopped off. Hello, Stephanie.
Hi.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Fair warning, I'm slightly inebriated, so we're just gonna.
Excellent.
We're gonna give that disclaimer.
That's the way I like you, babe.
And hold on, I gotta say to someone. Give me a second. Brian, I'm going with Davidson Reserve bourbon. It's a good choice. I don't know what Kurt's drinking.
I'm drinking Wild Turkey 101.
No, he asked what you were drinking.
There you go.
Wow, I actually exist. Yeah, I do actually exist. I even have a channel. Okay, so let's go.
Let's go.
Even though you would not let me in during the Jussie thing to make faces and laugh.
Oh, I thought that's the way you wanted it. I thought the way you wanted it was
make
for me
faces at you and laugh. Hence...
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. I misunderstood the stage directions. I thought you wanted me to just do it to camera and then I'd come in with you. But yes, I assume you were making faces and laughing at me in your heart.
Alcohol. What can I say? But let's go. You talk all you like about transgender, and when we get to the science and the medical, I'm here for you. Otherwise, I'm going to make stupid faces like people like to point out and giggle and drink.
Yes. So as we were discussing earlier today, we were discussing the Attorney General's opinion letter with respect. Really? It's funny already?
I've had a lot of whiskey while you were talking.
Excellent. We were discussing the Attorney General's opinion letter with respect to the issues in Texas with whether or not the child services could be directed to look into medical procedures. And Leonard French and I have a different read of the Attorney General's opinion and of the governor's opinion. It appears because Leonard French commented, as I understand it, that he thinks that this extends to just mere going to a doctor for therapies that wouldn't extend to procedures. So it's not like you can't go to even for talk and consultation. It's like you can have all the consultations you want without being in violation of the procedure law, as I see it. So it didn't pose a problem. What the Attorney General's letter said, and I can put it on screen at least in part,
please
so
do,
you can read the words that I butchered horribly.
Please do. I have not. I said please do. I have not read the text this one, so please do.
Oh yes. So I can pull it up, and because I butchered the names of all the things that they were asking about in the. Let's see. Okay.
Julius, no, that gets rid of the fun of the whiskey.
All right. So you can read this. You can read this part here asking about the sex change procedures that they wanted to investigate. So
Hold
you can
on,
read this.
I gotta blow it up because it was too little.
Let's see if I
Okay,
can make it any larger.
I got it. I just can't see the chat for right now. I'm reading. Nope, no, go back one.
I'm working on it. Make it
Just one.
bigger.
No, just go back one. Or okay, there we go. I just can't see the chat for a few. Okay, I'm listening. Let's go. You talk. I read.
So they were investigating gender reassignment surgeries. These procedures are performed to transition individuals with gender dysphoria to their desired gender and identify the following specific sex change procedures. Would you read the following specific sex change procedures and then tell us what they are?
Sterilization through castration, vasectomy, hysterectomy, oophorectomy, metoidioplasty, orchiectomy, penectomy, phalloplasty, vaginoplasty, mastectomy, and removing from children otherwise healthy or non-diseased body part or tissue. Sterilization through castration is easy. It is the removal of the testicles. Vasectomy is the severing of the vas deferens, which is done many times as male sterilization surgery as a form of birth control. Hysterectomy can be either partial or total. Partial hysterectomy is the removal of the fallopian tubes and the uterus. Very rarely, the cervix does not always remove the ovaries. Oophorectomy removes the ovaries, so a total hysterectomy would remove the ovaries too, and oophorectomy would remove just the ovaries, which is where the hormones are produced, but would leave the vagina and the uterus. Metoidioplasty is the surgical construction of a penis using using everything that's already down there, kind of making instead of digging a hole, flipping it inside out and pull. Orchiectomy is again removing things. Penectomy is removing the penis. Phalloplasty is where they create a penis using some of the internal parts and generally skin from the forearm and a skin graft. That can also be done with metoidioplasty. Sometimes you need skin from the forearm and a very large graft. And when I say very large, I'm talking like wrist to inner elbow. And vaginoplasty is where you take the pole and dig the hole, aka you flip everything kind of inside out. Mastectomy is the removal of all breast tissue and fat, and just like with breast cancer, removal of everything of the chest. And then obviously number 3 is pretty self-explanatory.
Yes. Now that sounds like a lot of things, and that does sound typical of transgender surgeries. And this would, at least in many parts, possibly produce infertility. I would imagine that the castration might, provide some sort of fertility issues.
Castration 100% because you're removing the testicles is infertility. Vasectomy can be reversed, but there's a high rate of complication. Hysterectomy would render a woman unable to carry, but if they were left the ovaries, they could use surrogacy. Oophorectomy, they would lose the ovaries. If they kept the uterus, they would be able to use a donor egg. Metoidioplasty almost is always coupled, although in very rare cases not, with the other surgeries. So metoidioplasty generally will result in sterilization. Orchiectomy, penectomy, phalloplasty, and vaginoplasty all come with generally sterilization. The only way it would not involve sterilization is if you were to preserve, things beforehand.
Yeah. So this is what they were investigating. This was what the governor's letter was about. The governor's letter was implementing. So this entire letter that we're reading now was written at the request of one of the members of the Texas House, who's a chair of whatever committee, and wanted an opinion letter. And so the attorney general wrote an opinion letter pursuant to the processes for that. And so this was a non-binding opinion letter because he was writing a member of the House. The governor then said, okay, well, if that's the state of the law, I want to implement that, and sent a directive to Child Services to implement this. So they were directed to do investigations relating to gender procedures. And then we say, well, what kind of procedures? And these are the procedures that they wanted to investigate. So these are, fairly serious things.
I will say 2 and 3 would not result in any sterilization of any kind.
Okay, well, I'll get one of each of those then.
I mean, if you would really like a mastectomy, you couldn't technically get one. There are male ones.
It solved my man boob problems.
It leaves huge scars.
Okay, well, chicks dig scars.
Okay, keep going.
And then all these puberty suppression or puberty blocking drugs, which they point out in this.
Go back up so I can read it real quick.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, continue. I'm good.
Okay. And then they note here somewhere that the procedures can result in side effects, mental health effects, thrombosis, thromboembolism, increased risk of cardiovascular disease, weight gain, decreased libido, I would think. Hypertriglyceridemia. I don't know what that one is.
Do you just want me to go through it?
No, I'm going to pronounce it badly and you can correct me.
Okay.
So what is hypertriglyceridemia?
High cholesterol.
Okay. Elevated blood pressure, decreased glucose tolerance, gallbladder disease, benign pituitary prolactinoma. What is that?
Prolactinoma. Prolactin is the hormone secreted by the pituitary gland that causes lactation in females.
Lowered and elevated triglycerides, increased homocysteine levels. What the hell is that?
Homocysteine, it's another steroid hormone.
Hepatoxy. What's a hepatoxy? What's a hepa? What's a
hepatoxy means something.
Is that is that like a hippo that eats people?
No. Hepatoxy is something that's toxic to the liver.
Is it hungry hepatoxy?
No. Hepatoxy it's hepato, and that just means it's toxic to your liver. Polycythemia means too many red blood cells.
Well, I wouldn't want to do anything that's toxic to my liver.
You're gonna be both. Not that I'm doing that now on the third bottle.
Polycythemia. What's
polycythemia? Like I said, too many red blood cells.
Why? I want more red blood cells. More red blood cells means more oxygen. I want all the red blood
cells. No, not always. It can actually be problematic and too much. There are
more
actually
red blood cells. More red blood cells. More red blood cells.
Have to donate blood just to get rid of them.
More red blood cells.
Not better. More's not always better.
Sleep apnea, insulin resistance, chronic pelvic pain, increased cancer and stroke risk.
Mm-hmm.
And then they point out that it has some very ugly history. And then also going to this question today of what they're investigating. So like, what are they trying to investigate? What is the thing? Whether facilitators, which are patients, counselors, or conducting people, doctors, medical procedures and treatments that could permanently deprive children of their right to procreate or impair their ability to procreate before these children have legal capacity to consent to these procedures and treatment constitutes child abuse. That seems like a plausible position to my mind, Stephanie.
Okay. What are
your thoughts?
So I would like to point out several things. Let's back all of this up. So first and foremost, I am going to say that Stephanie is not speaking from a personal opinion of what I think transgender parents, youth, whatever. Not my opinion. This is my opinion as someone that has a medical license and experience. Step one. Just like Kurt says, it's not legal advice. 2, here's the thing. The American Academy of Endocrinology comes out with a guideline, and their guidelines are what are to be followed. So some of the things in that letter are problematic because they are wrong scientifically. not wrong in they're wrong in the context, right?
Okay.
So they're wrong in context. So we need to remember that. Not all the things they're saying in the letter or how they're used or cause what they say they cause. So let's remember that. The American Academy of Endocrinology's guidelines do not support the majority of what is in that letter. Physicians that are doing a lot of what's in that letter go against the American Academy of Endocrinology's guidelines on gender confirmation and gender dysphoria recommendations. And for those who don't know, the American Academy of Endocrinology are the people that deal with hormones and put out the guidelines on how to treat children that are
Well, maybe doctors are in
dysphoria.
violation of the guidelines. Maybe they don't give a damn what the guidelines are.
But this is what I'm saying. Those guidelines are there to say, if you have a patient presenting with X, Y, and Z, this is how we feel. Like, this is the medically appropriate way to treat it. And that's a standard of care that's international. If you choose to violate that, that's easier to challenge in court as malpractice.
Yes, that's true.
So, okay, continue.
Okay, I don't really know where to go from there.
What's your question?
Well, what do you think? Okay, where do you think the letter is wrong then in terms of in the conformity with the guidelines or lack thereof?
My issue is they're not specifying ages. So saying things like gender puberty blockers cause infertility. Technically, they do not. They do cause other problems, but not infertility. And those other problems are minimized as a certain age. Like once you hit a certain age, those side effects. Every drug has a side effect. You need to understand some of those side effects and things that they're talking about in that one paragraph, cholesterol, blood clots, all of that, those are the same side effects with birth control. Any synthetic hormone. So if I give a biological female birth control, she has an increased level of blood clots.
Okay, yes, I was vaguely aware of that.
So that's what I'm saying. You can't exclusively say these drugs given in the context of transgender children or transgender people alone cause this. Given to a biological female, it'll cause it. You give some of the you give testosterone to a biological male that has low testosterone, you'll have the same side effects.
Well,
and the same risk. It's a risk-benefit analysis. I'm not saying right or wrong.
But they're not saying it doesn't.
Saying
they're not saying it doesn't. This is like one of those wonderful things about like legal advocacy and where like legal advocacy is, because I'm like, all right, if it's true, for example, that taking these hormones in general will lead to blood clots, then it's true that if I give the hormones for the purpose of the transgender therapy, it will lead to blood clots. Right? You need the therapy for the transgender. I'm giving you this medication. It will lead to increased blood clots. That's a true statement.
Correct.
It might be misleading, but it's true.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you can't say it's exclusive.
That's true, and they didn't say it was exclusive.
No, but in some ways it can be alluded to.
Oh yeah, as long as you're alluding to it, you're fine, right? You just got to keep. That's how you keep that as advocacy. Juices flowing.
I am just pointing out that drugs of any kind, medication of any kind, have side effects as a risk-benefit analysis.
This is true.
I'm not saying it's my personal opinion of whether I think you should be allowed to or not. Just as a medical provider who's
what is your understanding of long-term implications of puberty blocking drugs?
The American Academy of Endocrinology does not under any circumstance support giving puberty blocking medications to prepubescent children under any circumstance, for one. And I agree with that. Giving puberty blockers to children that are early pubescent, especially in people that are biologically female, can cause osteoporosis.
That's a problem.
It does not cause infertility. If it does, it's extremely rare, but again, that's a site. There's exceptions to every rule.
Oh, sure.
But it's a very rare thing. We give, well, I don't anymore, but people give puberty blockers in many cases because of certain tumors. There's other reasons to give puberty blockers early on in puberty. I mean, I know there are children that are 8 that are hitting puberty, give puberty blockers for to delay it a few years.
Yeah, birth control can be used for other medical reasons.
Right, but I'm saying puberty blockers, which isn't what you're talking about.
No, I understand.
Puberty blockers can be given to like 7 and 8-year-olds that have early onset puberty to delay it, which is a valid medical reason.
Why is it a valid medical reason?
Because there's increased levels of things like cancer if kids start puberty too early.
Okay, fair enough.
And they're also not psychologically ready to deal with some of the things that come with puberty in certain cases. So there are valid medical reasons that endocrinologists will delay puberty. Yeah. But again, you can have things like osteoporosis in biological females. You can have feminization in biological males. There are valid reasons to give it, but they come with the same risks. And yes, osteoporosis is a very valid one. The earlier you give puberty blockers to a biological female, the longer you continue it, you do have a higher risk of osteoporosis.
So basically you're going to have weak bones when you're 50 or something?
Right. So essentially, the way to look at it is things, everyone always says, like, what do puberty blockers do? Things that you would see in a postmenopausal female that's not taking hormone replacement, or a postmenopausal male that's not taking, not postmenopausal, but a male past a certain age with testosterone insufficiency that's no longer producing enough. Those are the same side effects you would see in kids.
That sounds bad for the kids.
I'm just saying.
It sounds like a lot. It sounds bad.
It's the same hormone suppression.
Yeah. So if you took hormone therapy, hormone suppressors from, say, age 13 to age 18 and then stopped, would you go through puberty normally at that point?
Generally, yes. It could be delayed onset. The studies, if you look at the American Academy of Endocrinology, there are lots of varying in the studies. Statistics tend to lie. But what I'm saying is there are some lasting effects. Puberty blockers alone are not as bad as some of the other options.
No, I don't think I'd contest you on that. I don't necessarily think that makes them okay, but I wouldn't contest that they're severe.
Here's the thing. If you give somebody puberty blockers alone, right? Essentially, when you stop the puberty blockers after a period of time, they will, things will reverse. If you give hormones on top of puberty blockers, that will cause infertility. That can cause infertility and irreversible harm. And I see somebody say puberty blockers can and do cause infertility. They don't do, they can. Do says they always, they can. It is a possible side effect. It is not a hard and fast.
Well, I'm sure like law, there's very little that's hard and fast.
Right, but the problem is the majority of people receiving puberty blockers after about the age of 12 start receiving hormones. And that's where you get the infertility, not from the puberty blocker itself.
All right, so talk a little bit more about that. So how does the combination of puberty blockers plus hormones lead to infertility?
Because you're essentially synthetically simulating a different gender. Your vocal cords thicken, you'll grow an Adam's apple, Males, you'll grow breasts. None of those things will go back when you stop taking it. Look at transgender athletes.
Right. Yeah.
Even transgender athletes who have been on puberty blockers or have been on hormones, and while they've already gone through puberty, they're still on the same medications to block their natural production, along with the other hormones.
Mm-hmm.
They don't lose bone mass. They don't lose height.
Yeah, I haven't read this book, Irreversible Damage, but I've heard it's really good.
It is very, it's not bad. It's very right wing, which I have no issue with. There's a lot of very iffy science that can be refuted in it, and Abigail Schreier's not someone I would take scientific.
Fair enough.
It's not double blind peer reviewed as my standard answer.
All right, so let's move outside of hormone blockers and let's talk about.
Is infertility reversible? It depends on the cause. Generally, you can do things to counteract it.
Yeah. I mean, asking questions like that, it's like, yeah, maybe.
But some become suicidal from hormones. That is a very, very real thing. There's plenty of people that become suicidal from birth control. High levels of hormones are known to cause suicidal ideation.
Along with antidepressants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's move out of the.
You continue with your video, and when you have science questions, I'm here drinking.
Okay. Well, I mean, this video is a lot of me and you talking because I've done a stream already today, so you can drink.
Your clips you wanted to show.
I have no particular clips. I was thinking maybe we could watch the video and comment on it or something.
That's what I meant.
Okay, let's do that then. All right, so we're going to watch this video from another YouTuber, and we're going to comment on it. This is from Sydney Watson, who at the moment has 666,000 subs. And the title of this video is called "The Ghoul is Performing Trans Surgeries on the 12-Year-Olds." What the fuck is this? So we can comment on this and see what this has to say. Yeah, Streamlabs needs a better way to change windows. I have to find this. Oh, I know why it's not doing it. Do this. Share screen, share tab, share audio. Great. Share. Fantastic. See what we're able to do there? All right, so let me know when you want to comment.
Like for the stop.
This is now a reaction channel.
Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to hell. And of course, before we launch in, today's video is sponsored by Buffalo Reclaimed Flag Company. And also, of course, by me.
You can probably fast forward a little bit.
Just dropped in my store. Finally, there is a brown-eyed Devil Club design and some other things that I thought were funny. It's Klaus Schwab from the WEF. Riding a bug. Come on. I especially like this one because it's true. So go to my merch store, check them out, subscribe to my email list while you're there if you so desire. Do this, and I will begin building my Sydney clone army. Now, if you are somebody who is terminally online, then you're already aware of the many ghoulish things being done to our pudding people. And if you aren't terminally online, then some of the things we will discuss in this video might make you want to fling yourself into space. In only a few short years, the emphasis on transgender children has exploded. And so too have the number of children identifying as anything other than their biological sex, including all the made-up genders that nobody asked for, but we got anyway. Some states and countries have attempted to reject this completely.
God
Only
bless
recently,
Texas.
Texas stepped up its action towards surgeries on children.
You got to move here, Stephanie. We're gonna have a ranch. We're gonna have a ranch, and it'll be great.
Keep going.
I want to talk about the ranch.
Yeah, keep going. I want to get to the funny part where she talks about Play-Doh and pudding.
Texas Department of Family and Protective Services said that gender-affirming surgery, as they like to call it, those damn progressives,
yeah, it's like
child abuse.
They have a very, very different understanding of what gender-affirming surgery looks like. Their idea of gender-affirming seems like gender-denying surgery to me.
Gender affirmation, by medical definition, gender affirmation surgery is what they call top surgery, which is a mastectomy, or implants in a female, or bottom surgery, which is genital reassignment.
Okay, so I disagree with the medical community's definition of gender affirming. I'm sorry, but even the medical community cannot redefine words. To my mind, those are not affirming.
I'm just telling you.
The medical community can eat me.
Okay.
And genital mutilation. In a quote, she said, "This surgical procedure physically alters a child's genitalia for non-medical purposes, potentially inflicting irreversible harm to children's bodies. Generally, children in the care and custody of a parent lack the legal capacity to consent to surgical treatments, making them more vulnerable." With this in mind, for most people, it seems unconscionable to think that anybody might be...
Can you give me a minute? Ken, I've got you. I knew you were going to pop up. Ken, I knew you were going to pop up. You give me a minute. Back to the video.
Oh, do you want a minute to yourself?
No.
You give a minute just to talk to Ken.
No. Back to the video. I just wanted to say, Ken, give me a minute.
Performing irreversible surgeries on young people and teens. It seems understood,
Ken is too
at
much
least
of a
in
chicken
part,
shit to appear on camera.
Even by kids who think they're transgender, that performing these kind of surgeries too early on can have lasting and irreversible consequences that cause further issues down the line. I know. I see your Reddit posts. Even these young people acknowledge that if you have top surgery, as they call it, and remove your breast tissue too early in life, that can set you up for more...
Ladies, don't remove your boobs. This message from Uncivil Law.
Issues and more surgeries later on. Not to mention all the botched surgeries that take place in the nether regions. But that doesn't stop some ghoulish surgeons from carrying out these surgeries anyway. And that is what we're going to talk about today, because this is by far one of the worst things to come out of gender theory and radical intervention. And it's all being directed at pudding people. But before you once again bored by Hell Gondola and I take you on yet another beautiful journey, let's hear from today's sponsor and a small American business that I love to support.
Give her a little bit of love.
Buffalo Reclaimed Flag Company.
Tell me about
Some
Buffalo
people
Reclaimed
like
Flag
stone,
Company.
Others like fabric. You want to know what I like? Fighting commies? Wood. I like wood.
I've got
Not
wood.
like that, you sicko. Enter Buffalo Reclaimed Flag Company. Buffalo Reclaimed is family owned and operated out of Buffalo, New York. They make incredibly cool handcrafted wooden flags made from 100% American materials, down to the glue and the screws. That's right, not made in China. Made with American hands. So much freedom. The lads over at Buffalo Reclaim sent me this flag, which I'm hanging in my dining room because why the heck not? And I'm genuinely impressed. It's the perfect weight, not too heavy, so it's easy to hang. The craftsmanship is really, really nice. And I love that they have a huge range of options on their website, including several different flag sizes. Yes, you can get a big boy. Of course, in addition to the range of American flags available, you can get dictator flags, English flags, or if you don't see what you want, you can get one customized. Ooh. They even have historic options like the Gadsden flag. The next one I order, I'm going to request they make me this. Beautiful. So click the link in the description and use code Sydney for 15% off. Support a small American business and get yourself a neat flag. At the end of 2021, writer Anna Slatz wrote about a doctor based out of Miami who allegedly performed a double mastectomy on a 13-year-old girl. A double mastectomy being
double mastectomy on a 13-year-old girl, Stephanie. They removed the 13-year-old girl's boobs, Stephanie. 13 years old.
Keep going.
13.
Yeah, I'll comment after. Keep going.
Snippety-doo of your baby feeders.
It helps if you comment along the way. Just
I'll get you. Just give me a minute.
Dr. Steve Gallagher, and yes, apparently this word is pronounced Sieve or Sieve. I don't know, Ireland, get it together. Originally from Ireland, is actually well known for performing these kinds of surgeries. In fact, she has quite a popular TikTok talking about just that. Why do they always have a TikTok? According to Slats, Gallagher became most associated with her infamous catchphrase, yeeting the teats.
Yeeting the teats. Okay.
A flippant, joking way to refer to performing cosmetic mastectomies or breast removals to her primarily underage female audience. Of course, I would like to show you some of the TikToks she's made, but they all have copyrighted music. And we don't play that game here. So while I'm talking, I will play a few over my voice so you can see how this probably appeals to depressed young teenagers, because that's what TikTok does. Very good. Taking advantage of young people. I also just find it creepy bragging about how people getting mad at you for deforming kids means that you're happy because you get followers. I don't know, it just feels weird. Anyway, in December 2021, a user on a forum called Kiwi Farms found that Gallagher allegedly performed a cosmetic mastectomy on a 13-year-old girl. While looking into Gallagher, the user, Falling Star, noticed some social media posts associated with the purported patient. In this screenshot, the alleged patient says that she stopped looking for surgeons at Gallagher, given that she was one of the only surgeons who would operate on someone her age.
13, right? Let's just read this. It's like, would you recommend Gallagher? She was the only person I found that had results that I would like and would operate on me on the age of 13. Great. Just great. Just all the great. Just fantastic great.
The patient also noted that she started testosterone at 13, had been seeing a psychiatrist since she was 5, and also,
hey, babe, if you want testosterone, I'm not going to finish that joke.
Had been attending a gender clinic for a few years. The girl is also actively pursuing a hysterectomy, a total removal of the uterus, and states that she will likely have it by 15, which is
15 to remove her uterus, Stephanie. 15 to remove her uterus.
Just keep going. I'll give you a comment in a minute. Trust me, I have a good one. Just give me a minute.
It is important that we comment frequently and throughout the video, Stephanie.
You comment frequently for right now. When Stephanie has a comment, trust me, it's an epic rant. So just give me a minute.
Okay.
A lot to unpack all on its own, which I'm not equipped to do because I'm not a psychiatrist. But apparently they're not even good at their jobs. So maybe I am.
Do you suffer from issues of abandonment?
So many issues of abandonment.
Any issues at all?
Now, it's worth noting that on her website, Gallagher says that the clinic is happy to offer top surgery to minors with consent of parents and the recommendation of the patient's mental health professional. When we evaluate each patient, we keep in mind the risk-benefit analysis, understand that it may well be much more detrimental to the patient to wait until 18 years of age for surgery.
This is on her own webpage, people. This is on her own webpage where she says we offer top surgery to minors and we don't make them wait till the age of 18. We do the gender reassignment surgeries, permanent life-altering surgeries on the under 8. This is on her own webpage. She's not like hiding the ball.
So
surgeries.
Here's the thing. The issue is, technically, right around 16, the American Academy of Endocrinology says with the right paperwork, in theory, you can have some of these surgeries. The stupidity is for about $150, you can buy it online, which is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Actually, it's harder to get a tattoo as a minor than it is to have these surgeries, especially since $150 won't buy you the paperwork to get a tattoo at a, as like at a reputable place. But whatever, it's all good. So here's my thing. You're going to get these surgeries. If you want to get top surgery, okay, cool. There's a clip later in this where a pediatrician goes off about top surgery, and I got a whole lot to say about that. But this dumbass that's over here like, hey, I do this. Look at me. I'm cool. I'm one of the young people. I eat things. Okay, dumbass. All you're doing is bringing yourself in front of the board. All you're doing is putting your medical license in jeopardy. What kind of dumbass is like, hey, I'm doing something that equates to malpractice? Darwin? Like the Darwin of the medical world? Like, I don't know what to tell you. She is Irish technically, but she does practice in the United States. So she's going to have to, she's Irish, but she practices in the US, as far as I can tell. She's going to have to fight her medical license if somebody argues this. What kind of idiots like, this is a great idea? None. So if you just want to be like, hey, I'm going to perform legal malpractice, let me go tweet this shit out. That's pretty much what she's doing. Play with fire, see what happens, stupid games, stupid prizes. If you want to get this shit done, and the response is like, oh, you can just get implants.
Mm-hmm.
Hate to break it to you, many people's body encapsulate, reject, or have issues with implants. It is not black and white. And many people that have mastectomy, the skin of the chest wall is too tight to accommodate even a submuscular implant. So then they have to put in something called a tissue expander, which is like a whole other thing, and multiple surgeries. It is not that easy. If you have that much gender dysphoria, even the American Academy of Endocrinology says until like 13, 14, 15, you are not psychologically ready to make the decision for top surgery. So maybe follow the endocrinologist. You're a plastic surgeon. Technically, you're not even a plastic surgeon, most likely. Because unfortunately, what most people don't understand, and people need to understand, is there's a difference between plastic surgeon and cosmetic surgeon. Plastic surgeon means you are accredited through the American Board of Plastic Surgery. You are board certified. Cosmetic surgeon, you could be an orthodontist. Any idiot that has a degree that allows them to perform surgery can perform cosmetic surgery. You could have a pediatrician doing your boob job. You could have an ENT doing your tummy tuck. If they're allowed to perform surgery, they can claim they're a cosmetic surgeon. The only thing that's board certified is plastics. So, like, hey, y'all want to play stupid games, stupid prizes, roll the dice with something unchangeable. Merry Christmas, have at it, but don't bitch when it happens, and don't try to find a malpractice lawyer, because it ain't gonna happen. Next.
That it may well be much more detrimental to the patient to wait until 18 years of age for surgery. And this is honestly not too dissimilar from what I saw on other surgeons' websites, with many in this field indicating they will operate on minors, but with parental consent and letters from mental health professionals. Of course, the main argument to this is that young people grow up and change. And they change their minds. Especially if you consider the aggressive push of gender theory onto children, it's likely that, and it's proven that, a large portion of them will come to outgrow their gender confusion.
Because a lot of it is man-made.
Well, it's not really man-made so much as it is woman-made, considering that the majority of teachers in schools are in fact women, and the majority of people pushing this appear to be women.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. I don't know why women, I don't quite understand it, because like women are trying to undermine themselves or something.
I don't get it either, totally.
Truly, you are a great mind of our age. Performing mostly irreversible surgeries on young people and teens is, in my view, and I'm sure in the view of many of you, completely unethical. And the reality is that in probably most other comparable situations, it would be unethical. In her research, Anna Slatz, the writer I referenced earlier, noted that it is entirely possible to get a letter from a healthcare provider regarding surgery for as little as $150. Here is this website, Plume, that says they offer letters of support for gender-affirming surgery. They also promise a 1-week turnaround time if a healthcare professional determines a person is medically eligible. I'll add as well
$150, man. It's a diploma mill for all the surgery you want. I'll do it for less though. I'll do it for $99. For $99, I'll write a letter that says that you are whatever you want it to be. It'll be fine. I'm a doctor.
What, JD?
Yeah.
Well, that this website is for those who are 18 to 65, but even for someone who isn't a minor but determined to do this to themselves, in some ways it appears worryingly easy to obtain medical permissions. Anna and her team also said that they reached out to Gallagher's office posing as a parent looking for top surgery options for their 13-year-old non-binary child. Despite explicitly providing the child's age, the clinic attempted to book a consultation, noting that the cost of the surgery would be around $10,000. Now, you're probably thinking that this is an isolated case, but no. There are other ghoulish doctors who are performing surgeries and taking advantage of young people. Now, let's do a little gear shifting towards Joe.
So yeah, this is happening in the United States today. Top surgery, all kinds of surgery for the transgender surgery. The fucking wokeness is surgical.
Okay, so here's my issue. I have for years defended people like Ken. I have defended many people and said, technically we do not, well, not me anymore, but technically people do not, and standard practice is to give things like puberty blockers that are generally reversible to minors. But then we have these idiots now that are doing these things. And I cannot in good conscience be like, oh yeah, totally. Because the American Academy of Endocrinology and all the science and all the double-blind studies and all the research says, okay, if you look at the risks of somebody that's got severe gender dysphoria and suicide with gender dysphoria or the psychological whatever, the risk versus benefit of that versus puberty blockers, it's better to treat that than to have them commit suicide because of gender issues. Okay, I can't defend that when now we have idiots that are like, oh no, cool, top surgery on a 12-year-old. There are idiots performing bottom surgery on 15-year-olds, and later in the video, there's proof of it. And there's my problem. I have spent many of your videos in the comments and on other videos and at medical conferences saying, these are the guidelines of the American Academy of Endocrinology that most doctors follow. I can't sit here and say, hey, this is what we follow. We don't do this to minors. Some of this is an agenda. Not all of this is true. You need to look at science. Well, now we have idiots that are like, I'm going to ruin it for you all. So here's my problem. All of this. This is what we're not going to do.
Yeah.
I can't defend it. I'm sorry. This is stupid. Wait till they're 18.
Wait till they're 25, but...
Joanna, or Johanna, I don't know how to say this woman's name, Olson Kennedy from Children's Hospital LA,
she looks so
a
nice.
Pediatrician who believes that there should be no minimum age for a double mastectomy.
No minimum age.
In this study, she notes that patients for chest surgery should be considered based on individual need rather than chronological age. In fact, here is a clip of Olson Kennedy justifying enormous adolescent decisions. She also adds that if you want breasts later in life, supposedly after you've had them removed, you can just go get them.
I'm just gonna say this, that actually people get married when they're under 20. Actually, people choose colleges to go to. Actually, people
under
make
20,
life-altering decisions.
Under 20 and under 18 are distinct propositions. I'd just like to note. And you know, choosing who to get married to and choosing even what college are in some senses less reversible than some of these things. So, you know.
In adolescence. All the time. All the time. And honestly, most of them are good. It's just the bad ones that we talk about. Oh my God, the cinnamon challenge, right? I mean, why do we know about it? Because it's a thing, and it's not common. Like, most teenagers aren't eating cinnamon, right? But some are, and they're on YouTube, and that's stupid. But we don't put on YouTube the things that are really good decisions, right? Oh my gosh, my kid took the SATs. Not a very exciting after-school special, right? But so what we
people
do
put that shit on social media all the time. My kids took the SATs. They put on their goddamn bumper stickers. What are you talking about?
So is that adolescents actually have the capacity to make a reasoned, logical decision. And here's the other thing about chest surgery. If you want breasts at a later point in your life, you can go and get them.
Yes, you can just get breast implants to replace the natural tissue that was taken from you at a time when you were 12 years old because you didn't know that major decisions cannot be reversed. I also feel like getting married at under 20 and cutting off your body parts are a little different. These things, they're not comparable. Stop trying to pretend they're comparable. In the paper I referenced earlier, Olsen-Kennedy describes top surgery outcomes for girls as young as 13. She looked at 68 girls who had undergone this specific surgery. 33 of these girls, almost
68 girls.
Half were under the age of 18 at the time. 2 were only 13 years old, and 5 were only 14 years old.
Well, okay.
Assuming these mastectomies weren't all performed by the same very busy surgeon, that means there are multiple doctors out there willing to operate on 13 and 14-year-olds. She also advises that women and girls with chest dysphoria should have their breasts removed first, and then, begin taking testosterone later on.
What kind of life advice is this?
Who lets these people near children? Another practice in Oakland, California notes that the youngest person they performed surgery on was a 12-year-old, although the youngest for bottom surgery, as they call it, was 16.
16 years old.
There you go. Ken's counseling couch. Here you go. Here is somebody that performed it on a 16-year-old.
Folks have kind of covered the blockers and hormones, but I'll talk about surgical care a little bit. In terms of masculinizing top surgery, I think 12 is the youngest who's had surgery through our program. And in terms of general reconstructive surgeries, we haven't had anyone under the age of 18 have phalloplasty or metoidioplasty, but we have had a few patients starting 15. I don't think surgery actually happened until 16 that have had vaginoplasty.
16 for the vaginoplasty. That's what I just heard. Is that what you heard?
Yes, that is bottom surgery in someone under the age of 18. Hence my point, Ken. Ken, I have backed you in many, many streams and said in many, many of Kurt's streams and other streams, and I still have lots and lots of respect for you as a medical professional. But as soon as I saw medical professionals admitting openly online that they are performing this on 15 and 16-year-olds, I have serious issues and it needs to be brought to the attention. I'm sorry. And I understand it's against ethics. I understand it's against guidelines. But if we as medical professionals and you as a mental health professional don't speak out against people like this, then they think it's okay to continue. So nothing against you personally, but it's happening.
From the same discussion, pediatrician Dr. Alana Shearer said that she feels challenged when she comes into contact with children who are not suffering from gender dysphoria. The challenge she is referring to comes from the fact that it is much harder to get a doctor to sign off on a child and insurance companies to sign off on surgery when a child has an absence of dysphoria.
Again, what comes out of this is, what do we do about the kids that don't need therapy? Right? Like, I really struggle. There are lots of kids that I see that don't have dysphoria, that really don't have mental health issues. And so to say to them, you have to go get a letter from a mental health provider, feels challenging to me. And so what we started to do in our clinics is have someone like Diane or Mary go in and do kind of a brief assessment and give their, I know you said you don't rubber stamp, but basically in my mind, that's sort of what it feels like. So that we can say, okay, now we can move on and talk about what you're actually here for, so we don't get kind of caught up in that.
In case it.
Okay, so that's pretty evil. So yeah, we have people who don't even suffer from gender dysphoria, but that's okay. We won't call it a rubber stamp, but we're totally doing the rubber stamp so that we can just go to the hacking and slashing parts.
I gotta.
If they just need the hacking and slashing, I've got a pocket knife. I could, make a half-assed attempt.
Yeah, I mean, I have to answer this. I'm sorry. Like, Ken, I understand and I fully support WPATH's stance. And yes, there's a few, but a few bad apples will spoil the bunch. I'm sorry. Like, Ken, I adore a lot of your positions on things. I'm just saying there are a few bad apples that spoil the bunch, and it does need to be brought to light that people are seeking out actively these people. And
I see the fact that I have to get mental health clearance and inconvenience. Let me just pepper stunt this for $150. Ha 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 ha.
And that's where I see an issue. And Ken, I have no issue. Like I said, I respect a lot of your stuff, and I spoke at Philly Trans Health. I have absolutely no issue. My issue is that it needs to be brought to light. I don't care if it's 20 or 30 people doing this, like 20 or 30 kids.
And I think it's growing. I think it's a growing problem.
Too many.
This is where things are moving.
And you're on Reddit, you're on Kiwi Forums, and you're telling people where to do it.
This is where things are moving. This is the direction people are going to go.
How to go on and do it.
Yeah.
Not Ken, these people. So it needs to be brought to light. And I have no issue with Ken, just FYI to people, as a person or as a mental health professional, and I do understand WPAH. And again, I support the American Academy of Endocrinology's guidelines. I am just saying, I don't care if it's 5 people. That's 5 people too many. I'm sorry.
And the guidelines are not like a rigid thing. They're flexible. The change of the DSM relating to gender dysphoria, and for that matter, even homosexuality. Not that I have to go back to the controversy on the change of the DSM relating to homosexuality and whether it was a political decision or not. But these guidelines can change, and so this is the thing, the direction that things seem to be going, based on movement and based on society. Like, these are becoming more and more acceptable. So these exceptions seem like they're more and more likely to become the rule rather than not. That seems to be the direction of things. That's my concern, among others, not to mention the horrors that are currently occurring. But like, this seems to be the direction people are pushing in, more of this. So these people might be outliers today, but I'm not convinced they'll be outliers indefinitely. Not with the changes we've already seen in the psychiatric profession, which, at least in my humble opinion as a non-professional, seems to have been manipulated by political considerations.
Moniker, unfortunately, HIPAA has nothing to do with this, and you can't really specifically do it because HIPAA doesn't really apply in this case. You would have to.
How's HIPAA even come remotely into this? What are we talking about?
Somebody asked how under HIPAA they could do something. What I'm saying,
HIPAA has nothing to do with this. HIPAA deals with privacy of medical records.
Can I answer the damn question?
Yeah. Yes, you can.
Don't make me use your full name.
Okay.
So like I said, you cannot using HIPAA because HIPAA doesn't apply. You can't report it. You could, in theory, Moniker, if you had access to those records, that would be a violation of HIPAA and you could be fined. You could take these open videos and turn them into the medical board or file anonymous complaints. You can't use HIPAA, nor can you use protected information that you have access to. Continue.
At least in my mind, these details seem too generic to run into a HIPAA issue. There's not enough details to tie them to any specific.
He said he had access to it. That's why I said don't.
No, yeah. Well, depends. It depends why you have access to these records. Are you a covered entity? If you're a covered entity, HIPAA applies to you. If not, then do whatever the hell you want under HIPAA. HIPAA only applies to covered entities. If you have access to the records as not a covered entity, then HIPAA does not apply to you. Please consult your own lawyer. This is not individualized legal advice.
Kurt, I'm supposed to apologize to you. The mom voice was too mean.
No, I like the fact. No, I like the fact that Stephanie can stand up to me. She has a backbone. She can stand up to me. I like it. No, I do like it. I like the fact that you can stand up to me.
That's what I was meaning.
And it's how we flirt with each other.
Next, continue.
Continuing on.
Wasn't clear. If a child is not suffering from dysphoria or doesn't have some sort of mental distress relating to their sex and body parts and what have you, these doctors will find a way to rubber stamp the issue anyway and sign off on it so that child can take the next steps, whatever they may be. If this also wasn't clear, if you're somebody who wants to cut off your healthy tissue, no matter the age, you probably should be seeing someone about that. Maybe I should be a therapist after all.
I mean,
How do you feel when you
that seems like a good thing to me. If you're wanting to cut off healthy tissue, probably some sort of therapy might be a good step along the way.
I mean, tummy tuck technically would fall into that. Hold on, someone said I need a green wall. Does this work?
You're fine. You're fine.
Who says she does the aforementioned rubber stamping appears to be the same psychologist, Diane Ehrensaft, who is a huge proponent of early childhood social transitioning. This refers to children adopting names, clothing, hairstyles, pronouns, etc. of the opposite sex, or the sex with which they identify. This 2018 article spoke to therapists at UCFS's Child and Adolescent Gender Center Clinic in San Francisco, socially transitioning children as young as 3. And I think it's fair to assume that doing this would make it much more likely that a child would want to medically transition a couple years on. You know, if you start telling
which is where the whole "Don't Say Gay" bill comes in, which doesn't mention the word gay once in the entire bill. But it's like, maybe we shouldn't teach this to the K through 3rd graders because maybe they can be unduly influenced. Luckificent has gone with purple now.
Oh, I'm playing with colors. People keep suggesting different. There we go, green. Even though my wall is actually green, but there we go. Continue.
Pink are the sheets that I lay on.
Too much
Pink
alcohol.
is my favorite crown.
Keep going.
Child from the age of 3 that they are in fact a lump of clay, then you might find a couple years later they might just want to sit out in your garden and be one with the world. If that was a joke, that wasn't remotely funny. In my travels of the internet, it became clear that Reddit and other websites like Transbucket are places where young gender-confused people can go to find surgeons and discuss who might operate on them at younger ages. One doctor in Toronto said he would perform breast removal on teens as young as 14. In an interview, he admitted to performing 2 surgeries on 14-year-olds and several others on 15 and 16-year-olds.
Yep.
Another doctor in Montreal allegedly
more
performed
surgeries for
another
more people, but it's all conservative myth or something. I made the screen blue. Okay.
14-year-old who 3 years ago
Are you having fun with the lights there?
One of the youngest people to have top surgery in Canada. Now, a friend of mine told me about a
just
clinic
answering
here
someone in
Texas
this chat.
Surgeries on young teens. So I had my friend Ariel Scarcella call up to confirm. I'd have called myself, but
maybe I should get some colored lights. Turn my place into a disco.
Someone told me to turn it into the disco, so I did.
No, I am really awkward and very bad at pretending to be the mother of a gender-confused child, which is what Ariel did actually for the purposes of this call, which explains some of the things that she says in the following clip. Full disclosure, there's about 5 minutes of footage, and at the beginning of the phone call, the woman on the phone tells Ariel that they now cannot perform surgeries on anyone below the age of 18 due to proposed law changes here in Texas that mean that they would be turned in if they, mutilated a 13-year-old. The woman on the phone goes on to say this when Ariel asked the age they used to accept for top surgery.
What about before this law change? How old was the limit? Like, what was? Because obviously we're really upset about this.
Personally, we were 12 and over.
12 and over.
As long as the child had already met all the requirements and had been in therapy.
12 and over. 12. There's not enough walls.
For time.
Okay.
And, had followed all of the guidelines, and they were in hormones, or the therapist was already following them and is recommending this next stage.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, as of right now, literally when that first mandate came through, they dropped our malpractice insurance for the doctors.
Oh, wow.
Instantly for anyone under 18.
Well, that makes sense, right?
And then they said that not only we were supposed to turn in the parent, but we could get turned in.
This is a clinic here in Texas that up until recently used to perform top
Not
surgery.
only can we turn in the parents, but we can get turned in. Yes, you can get turned in for violating the law and committing the child abuse. Correct. But we really wish we could, because we used to do it on 12-year-olds.
Okay, I think we can cut our video and have our discussion now.
Okay.
Like
My discussion at this point is, where are my guns? I want to go clean some firearms right now.
Okay. I got anybody that has questions that I haven't answered or seen. Start them with question, do the Kurt thing, and then we'll answer them. So the person that said something about my green background that they want to change me to random places. If you get my channel to 500 views, I will put up a green screen and you can do whatever you want. There's your deal. Anything else? Questions?
I'll get you 500 views if it means I can do whatever I want.
I said via the green screen. So back to the questions. Can counseling count sexual fetish nowhere close to dysphoria? You are 1,000% correct. In civil law, I have a question about the answer. Did the context include medically necessity? No. Astaroth, it does not. If it is medically necessitated, just like if somebody's got a history and a positive BRAC mutation, it is medically necessitated. It is covered by insurance and it is not illegal. This is solely cosmetic or for gender dysphoria. Next question. Kurt, this is why you can't let me drink after I haven't eaten in like 2 days.
I think you should eat something. I mean, I would encourage you to eat something.
The flu thing.
I know, but I understand, but you should eat something.
I tried. It didn't work.
Okay.
Could the advertisement for gender surgery be prosecuted as glorifying mutilation, cigarettes, alcohol? That would be a Kurt question. Kurt?
I'm looking for the question.
It's like 2 up, charcutian. Wait, hold on. Go up. There you go. No.
If the kid does not have dysphoria. No, not the wrong one.
That one does not have dysphoria. Does mean they're convinced into it. What other reason would a person with dysphoria transition? You can actually, so charcutian fraud, you can have the perception of gender dysphoria without having. You can know that you're transgender without having gender dysphoria. But insurance requires gender dysphoria to approve surgery. So that's where the rubber stamp comes in. That's, I think, your question. So they're rubber stamping it because without gender dysphoria, even if they say, I know I'm female. Thank you, Dirk. Even if they're like, oh, I know I'm female, but I don't have gender dysphoria, insurance won't cover it. So that's where the rubber stamp comes in. So, Kurt, it is Joshua Owen. That's a you question. Brian, what do you have to ask? I'll answer it. Just put it down. I don't see you, Brian. I love you.
I mean, the regulations around cigarettes, alcohol were long in coming, so it's a little bit hard to answer that question on the state of the law right now. I'm going to say no on the state of the law as it currently exists, and we seem to be heading in the opposite direction.
Durg Enterprises, I can recommend you a better 45 caliber cleaning rods. I love them. How did society decide people were mentally mature enough to make life decisions at 18? I didn't have an adult brain until I was like 33. I don't know. Katrina, I don't know. I'm in my early 30s and I still don't necessarily always have an adult brain, even though I'm a bad mom. And yes, I say that laughing. No, I'm not serious about it. Continue. Kurt, questions. Let's go. Do you have any questions?
My questions are for after stream.
Yeah, I know, but I meant in the bot.
Oh, no. The bot isn't really working right now.
Okay, let me go through the things. The over-under thinker. So you can feel the way, but it might not inform your ability to perform like function. No, the over-under thinker, and I guess Ken would have to technically, since he's the psychological person, correct me, but gender dysphoria is a psychological issue where you feel psychological distress looking in a mirror or knowing that you are biologically a different gender. So like if you see yourself post-puberty, you have dysphoria and issues based on the gender you see. So saying that you don't have gender dysphoria, but you feel that way, it would be, I know I feel like me, who obviously is very not male, feeling that I'm a male inside, but looking at myself as a female doesn't bother me. So I don't have gender dysphoria looking at myself because I'm not dysphoric. It doesn't cause me any kind of negative feelings or emotion looking at myself, but I know internally I'm male. That would be the difference between dysphoria and not
Hold the
having
fort down for me for a second.
I'm trans, as far as I understand. Go back. Don't lots of insurances not cover it even with dysphoria, Melanie? Many will cover it with dysphoria after a certain age. But it takes a certain age. Where'd you go, Kurt? Kurt, get back here. Melanie, lots of insurance cover it with dysphoria, but it has to involve extensive. Kurt, where'd you go? It involves extensive psychological stuff along with the medical. Why would gender dysphoria allow for these types of surgeries, but people with body dysmorphia can't cut off their leg or their arm? Silvano, I don't know, but I'm guessing because it's not technically supported yet under the DSM. Chuck. Hi, Chuck. Drop pod. Yeah, we're great. We're happy he got his channel back. Where'd you go, Kurt? Get back here. Wouldn't knowing you're a female when you aren't be dysphoria? Dysphoria is predicated on an issue with how you see yourself physically, not your psychological. It's physical. Uncomfortable truth. Do you think these gender issues occurred in ancient history or ancient civilization? I don't know. Uncomfortable truth. I think the reason we're seeing it more now is it's more socially accepted in a lot of ways with the woke culture. And to yes to everybody, I'm very right wing. No, I don't agree with any of this. Derg Enterprises, cleaning rods equals bullets. Yes, Derg, I have like 40 or 50 different brands of bullets that I just reviewed. I just can't show them on a stream. Is lobotomy or other surgical means legal to do involving other mental illness? No. Lobotomy is no longer medically considered an appropriate procedure. Or do limits involving medical procedures exist only as a paper trail? No, they don't exist only as a paper trail, but a lobotomy is no longer conserved. Right, Manuel. Stefan Uncivil. Why should individuals have the right to make decisions for others and they don't have control of their own life? Brian, that's a long part of this discussion. Should a parent be allowed to make this decision for their child? That's a lifelong decision that could be changed, and that's why it's recommended to 18. Steph, you're in your early 30s. Correct, Julius. I know a lot of people say I look a lot older, but yes, I am in my very early 30s. Even though I'm apparently a bad mother and I look old. But yes, I'm in my very early 30s. No one gets mentally older than 25 or 28. No, Sir San, I disagree. There's days I'm like not mentally older than my early 20s. Dirk, we need to stop this. It seems like we're being hit from all fronts. I don't disagree. Kurt, you gonna interject?
Yeah, no. I think you've been. Yeah, I don't really have a particular opinion. You're doing great.
Kurt, interject.
Okay.
Liver toss. Personal problem. What? Leave my alcohol alone. It's not always a personal problem.
You're good.
And I'm purple because people that I like said they like purple. I'd peg her at 38 to 40. Wow! I look old? Maybe it's the flu, maybe it's cancer, maybe it's alcohol. No, you're about 6 years off. Hot, you're comfortable with who you are. Damn straight I am. Mentally insane, damn straight I am. Well, I mean, like, not clinically, but sure, if y'all want to go with that.
I think I'm going to sign off for now so I can talk to Stephanie for a while by myself. But I thank you for everyone for joining the stream. We had a lot of fun. And as always, remember to check out Stephanie's channel. I'll change the description to put a link to her channel and help her grow to her goals and help her support her. And to Lamb, my friends, I hope all's well. Cheers and goodbye.